welcome. Gio and I are here with someone neither of us have ever met in person, which is fun. So we're going to get to know each other a little bit on this episode. So I'm here with Michael Przytula. I think I got that mostly right. He is the managing director for intelligent and digital workplaces at Accenture. And I love the tagline on LinkedIn, helping corporations create places people love to work. And that is the key today. And Michael, I also love your little video profile guy. You're gonna have to tell me how to get that done. So given the fact that you don't really know Gio and I, except that Gio, you and Gio follow each other on LinkedIn, thank you for joining us today. We're happy to have you.
Well, no, thank you for the invite. I'm excited. I haven't spoken to anyone in the co-working sort of space before, so I'm interested for the discussion. So thanks for the invite.
Totally. Yeah, it's adjacent. Gio, jump in.
The most exciting part to me about it was as we really look at the audience and how it's growing in the industry as a whole, right, is we have a huge following from operators, right? I think we're growing the landlord following. I don't just mean just even Jamie and I just mean in general in the industry. But we're starting to see more and more of the enterprise side, right? And so, I think that's a big part that I've enjoyed following you is kind of you've discussed a lot of how enterprise was handling COVID, right? How it affected the technology side and so many other things. And Accenture is obviously one of the top consulting firms in the entire world. And so I know Jamie has a background at Accenture. She's an alum. A long time ago.
It was my first job out of undergrad. So although it wasn't called Accenture, I'm dating myself a little bit here. But my first year there, they changed their name to Accenture. So
yeah. So again, you kind of want to give us a quick rundown of kind of what your role is and what your overall view of the world is today.
Yeah, sure, Gio. So thanks. So yeah, my role at Accenture, I run our consulting organization called Intelligent Digital Workplaces, and essentially myself and my team work with our clients, and Accenture is also one of our clients. But we work with our clients to help them understand how to best use technology to help people get their jobs done. And that ranges everything all the way from laptops and mobile phones and email and conferencing technologies, all the way through to the things that we call now intelligent workplaces, smart buildings, smart spaces, IoT sensors, and all of the technology that helps run the space that people actually spend their time in. So super exciting area for me, been doing it my whole life, but it is extra exciting right now because of the changes that we're going in from a people side of things, right? So yeah, that's me and what I get up every morning excited to do.
Well, that's awesome. So you were talking about your team. So you want to tell us about what's that team look like? Kind of what's the overall dynamics there?
Yeah, so we have different groups of people that spend different time doing things from helping with employee experience design, whether it be in new construction buildings or renovation programs. We do work around helping organizations to use the space and or the technology that are in there better than they have before. We spend a lot of time at the moment helping large organizations with things like my conference rooms just don't work. Right? They don't work for our people, or people don't know how to use them, or they come in and they're broken and so they go home. They don't want to come back in again. So just really helping improve experience. And part of that is understanding who the people are and what they're coming in to use. But the other part of that is just actually making sure that the tech, it works, it's reliable, it's consistent. When there's problems with it, it gets fixed properly. So we really look at things from that experience of the consumer perspective, and then all the way through down to how do we make sure that those people get a reliable experience from whatever it is that they're coming to do. So conference rooms, renovation programs, new construction programs, also just helping organizations right now that employee experience has become a big thing, understand what is the purpose of their space, what is it there to do, what purposes is it there to serve, And is the environment set up, and does it have, in the world of hybrid, technology is a huge part of this. Does it have the technology to actually function in the way that they want the place to be used? So that's what we spend a lot of our time doing.
I was thinking while you were talking, it started off sounding like a little bit technical, but it's really pretty strategic today because, to your point, if the tech doesn't work, people go home. And we read a lot about, we know this from data and anecdotally that people are using the office or third spaces, which is a lot of, what we do to meet, right? So I can do you even said when you're at home, you just work at home. Or you're in New York City working with clients or your team. So you go somewhere to be with people and to get stuff done. And if you can't get it done, then you're not going to go there. So
yeah, totally.
I mean, I'm curious about, you're probably sitting in a room with some different conversations maybe than you would have had before COVID about how critical that aspect is of the experience, and like convincing people, convincing maybe the wrong word. Somebody's gonna, get grumpy about, but helping people use the office when they want to, when it's appropriate, right? And encouraging that, because I would say in general, we probably all agree that we want people to be together when they want to be together, and we want to facilitate that. So yeah, I'm just curious about some of the conversations, your team is a part of, and what that vibe is right now.
Yeah, Jamie, it is interesting, right? And the way that we look at it, and I think the way that the discussion is going is that you're totally right. It's about providing a space for people to meet and a space for people to be able to come and be together. But you also need to be able to provide them with the capability to do the thing that they came together to do, right? And yes, it's great to go and get together and have a coffee, have a drink, have a chat. But especially in the large organizations where we work and spend most of our time, even before the pandemic, not everyone from the same team was in the same office, right? There was 5 people in New York, 2 people in LA, a person's in Seattle, and they need to come together to have a meeting. Now, one of the things that has definitely changed is how critical the technology is for those meetings to happen. In the past, it was sometimes a nice to have. It was like, you know what, we're gonna call Jamie on her mobile phone, and the audio is gonna be kind of choppy and cuts in and out. And Jamie doesn't really get to contribute to the meeting all that much because it's not that great, but it just became sort of standard. And then during the pandemic, we all got used to being on a call like this, and everyone can be heard and everybody's been able to contribute equally, et cetera, et cetera. We then move forward into working in a hybrid manner, or now we've got some people in the office, some people out. We're not happy with bad audio anymore, right? I'm at home, the audio is good. I come to the office, the audio is terrible, right? Why am I going to come in? So there's a different level of expectation amongst people of what capabilities they get out of their space. But conversely, there's also an increased demand for things to actually just work. And I'll share a small anecdote if I can. We were doing this stuff, helping organizations before the pandemic, but it became so much more amplified now. And the example is this: I did a test at a customer of our site in 2019. I was in a conference room and I wanted to call somebody on the phone, and the phone was broken, right? The phone wasn't connected, it didn't work. So I went to the effort of finding out the website, putting in the details, logged a call saying, this conference room phone doesn't work. 4 days later, somebody called me back and asked me if I'd fixed the phone in the conference room. And I said, well, no, that's in a whole different city. I'm not even there anymore. And they said, well, how do we know if it's still broken? I said, I don't know, right? But it shouldn't take you 4 days to call me back to fix a conference room phone. Now, fast forward to where we are today, where people are coming into the office to meet and to have meetings. Having a room not work for 4 days, it's just not acceptable anymore. It's not acceptable to the employees. People come in, it's like, why have I done this? The thing doesn't work. The video doesn't work. The audio is poor. They're just going to stay home. They say, I had a better experience when I was at home. What's the point of coming in? And so we've seen organizations really understand that, and has put this huge focus on, meeting rooms specifically have to work. They have to work. And if there's a problem with them, we've got to fix it straight away, because it takes that whole room out of operation, and it wastes everybody that's in that rooms or came into the office. It wastes their time. So we've definitely seen an increased focus on the tech has to work.
Yeah, I loved you. So you put out a blog or an article, I want to say it was maybe back in April, that basically talked about people, place, and technology, right? We're used to hearing the people, process, and product. But I mean, you kind of have a new spin on it. You changed the PPP to PPT. So, I mean, how has that continued to evolve? Because I think a lot of people thought that now that we've opened up the offices, people are going to be dying to go back, which it clearly isn't the case, right? At the same time, when they go back, they have to have an experience, right? They have to enjoy it, like you're saying. They have to want to go back. And technology is such a major part of that allows corporations to be able to continue operating without having people fly back and forth, or with this hybrid model and everything else. And so how are y'all handling that overall? How have you seen that evolve over the last year, call it?
Yeah, no, great question, Gio. And it's definitely, technology is definitely a key piece of this, but it's also important to understand that it's not good enough to just build an amazing space and then throw some tech into it, right? The tech needs to be in there to help the people do what they came to do. And it needs to be, and I talk about this quite a lot, how it needs to be integrated into the flow or the workflow that they're there to do, right? Whether it's coming into the office, trying to find somewhere to sit, trying to find a meeting room, connecting into a Zoom meeting like this one. The tech needs to be in there, but it needs to be easy to consume, and it needs to just be, basically appear and function the way that you expect it to when you want it to happen. And so that's definitely something that more and more organizations have become aware of. And the whole sort of people, place, and technology is sort of trying to amplify the fact that these three things need to be done together. They can't be done independently, right? You can't go and say, hey, we're going to build this space, put all this tech in, and then HR come along and say, so we've decided that our policy around hiring or whatever is something else, right? These things need to all be integrated together so that we understand the purpose of the workplace. We understand why we're telling people to come in. We're building an environment for them to actually come and do those activities, and the technology is there to support those functions.
So what is the general sort of, trying to think of the word I'm looking for, like, are you sitting in rooms with clients who are still like, yeah, we don't know, like, are you like still on the struggle bus around figuring out, like, I don't know, why are we going to tell people to come in? How do we, make this a place people want to be?
Yeah, I think that in the large end of the corporate world, it's easy for HR to come up and decide what a policy is going to be, right? We're going to tell you it's a 3-2 or it's a 4-1 or whatever the thing is. I think it's a much bigger challenge when you've got a large portfolio to actually instigate the change that needs to be done in that portfolio, right? You can go and tell everyone, hey, come into the office. We're going to have all these events in there. But then if you're the portfolio manager, you're looking at this going, I don't have spaces in all of my offices to do these things that they've just told us to do, right?
Right. And we don't have the tech. What kind of tech?
We didn't have the tech. Or we come in and say, hey, everyone come and do meetings in the space. And they get there, and there's some organizations we speak to that have been traditionally very office centric. They'll say, we've got a video conferencing unit that's 10 years old in 1 out of every 5 meeting rooms that we've got, right? And it used to be used to call this one person like once a week or once a month into this one specific call. And now everyone wants to come and use it every day. And so you end up getting into this situation where people want to come in, but even when you tell them to come in, they come in and they can't do the work that they want to do, and they end up going home. And the biggest challenge those organizations are facing right now is scale and budget, right? They've got a lot of property, and they got a lot of rooms, and it's just simple math, right? X number of dollars per room or per building times by the number of buildings that you've got, and just the time that it takes to do that. And so, a lot of organizations are trying to work out, how do they do this at scale to give them the spaces that they need? How do they prioritize? And a lot of that is still, with organizations going through trying to work out what their footprint's going to be. So you kind of got this little bit of a chicken and the egg sometimes, where IT might sit there and say, okay, we're ready to go. We've got money. We're going to put conference rooms in. And real estate says, we haven't kind of worked out what our portfolio strategy is going to be yet. And so we don't know if we want you to go and put these 200 rooms together in this building. And then HR is still trying to work out if they're going to stick with the 3-2 or the 4-1 or whatever. And so there's still a little bit of a moving target for everybody. We're starting to see a little bit more clarity, but even when those that have gone and said, okay, we know what we're going to do, scale and budget are the two biggest things that are stopping them from getting to the end of the road.
Well, I'm going to switch gears here. Jamie loves it when I do this. And then I'm going to impress her too, because I did some fun research. So you are an avid sportsman, right? I mean, you're all over Strava. So cyclist, runner.
I'm a cyclist, yes. I'm a cyclist and I'm a runner when I can't ride my bike.
So, I mean, Austin is like the cycling capital of the US. You know, I lived there for a bit and there's so many different routes. What's your favorite route in Austin?
Oh, so I live out on the east side. I moved out there 5 years ago specifically to be near the country routes out there. And so my normal one during the week is I'll head out normally out to Manor and back again. It's a good sort of 40 miles out there. A good
during the week
hours.
You do this?
Yeah, during the week, lunchtime.
40
if I'm at home, and go out there and back is a good sort of break. Not a lot of traffic out there, lots of farmland, a few tractors, things like that. But that's kind of my mainstay. Anywhere out there on the east side, you'll find me trolling around.
Have you ever done the Hotter Than Hell in Wichita Falls?
I have not. I have some friends that have, but not myself.
Yeah. It's coming up. And so, Jamie, Wichita Falls is a small town in kind of northwest Texas, and they do a Hotter Than Hell. And so they have 100 mile, they have a 100 kilometer, which is 66. Then they have 50 and then down to 25, but it's a huge deal. People come to it globally and just descend upon the small town. It's actually It's actually where I do my small.
If you didn't pick that up from the name, Jamie.
And it's so interesting because everything's flat. So the two things that matter is how hot is the day and how bad is the headwinds you're up against. But so I've done the century, the 100 kilometer and the 50. And luckily it was a good year, but it's funny. The timing it's actually in the next couple of weeks. So I just thought I'd ask, since you're an avid cyclist, you definitely need to add that to your bucket list.
I have a good couple of friends back home that have done it quite a few times. So I'll have to, I know that they've been asking me to do it, but I'm not a big one for the flat and definitely for the headwinds. They're like my two least favorite things.
Yeah. And then it's also one of those things where you have I know people that literally pick up, they literally take their bikes out and they have their numbers from the previous year. And so you have to make sure you start with the right group, or you've got a lot of novices out there, if you will. So you got to be careful. The other thing I did notice is you've spent a ton of time in Playa del Carmen. Running a loop. Did you take some time away and work remotely from there, or kind of?
I spent some time down in Mexico. It's kind of been a second home for us for quite some time. You know, even when we've been living overseas, we've always sort of come down here for the summer. So it's been a summer getaway for quite some time.
That's awesome. No, I love Playa. See, Jamie, I do a little bit of research. Thank you.
I'm trying to decide if this is good or creepy. No, I think it's good.
Well, here's my position.
I've lost a couple of my passwords. I haven't been able to work out what they are. You don't happen to know what they are, do you?
Here's the interesting part, right? Is sometimes people have that response. I'm like, if you think it's creepy, why would you put it out on literally all I did was type in his name and Strava popped up, right? It's not like I put in some magic password and some
I hear you. I'm totally
magical
kidding.
account.
Wait,
Gio, I didn't know that you were a cyclist.
Yeah.
I've never heard you mention cycling.
A bunch of stuff in my 45 years. It's always So I got into cycling and triathlons kind of on the back end of my soccer career. So it's just one of those things that's easy on the knees. And I certainly can't keep up with Michael. I guarantee you that. But it's fun to just get out and ride every once in a while. But I mean, Austin's known for it. And they've got some incredible routes and some routes that I see people riding like up and down 360, Michael. And I'm just like, A, it's insane because it's super hilly, but B, the traffic is insane and you're basically putting your hand in someone else's life. So or your life in someone else's hands.
That was my old backyard before we moved out to the east side. So you already know one of the reasons why we moved.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then they can ride down 2222, that hill headed to 360. I'm just like, I mean, some of these people probably get up to 50 miles, Jamie. It's insane. They're going down those hills.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait, are we back to the work stuff now?
Jamie's a CrossFitter.
I thought this was a cycling podcast. Sorry.
Totally. We do like to talk about sports. You just reminded me, I'm thinking about playing adult soccer this fall. I'm trying to decide what the risk is, how much damage can I do?
Damage you can do, it's the damage that people can do on you, right? Because you get a bunch of people that don't know what they're doing and start moving one direction, how to stop.
I might assess. I'll assess how many hacks there are.
Just go give it a go, Jamie. Just give it a shot.
I feel you love cycling. That's how I feel about soccer. I'm like, I just really miss it. I miss playing. And Gio was a sweeper. But so we'll see. We'll see. Anyway. So
get us back on.
Back to the office.
Well, I love the tech conversation. I mean, Gio, Kurt from Ascensus, I think they talk a lot about, you got to have your tech and the experience, just sort of making the parallel to flexible, third spaces, co-working, flexible space, same employee experience idea, right? Especially if people are paying. It's one thing to have your employees come in and be ticked because it doesn't work. If someone pays to use your meeting room, it better be easy to get in the door. And then once you get in, right, everything needs to work or else you're in big trouble. So it's like, it's similar, but even maybe more, sensitive that it works and that it's up to date. And our industry is starting to see more enterprise users who are used to great technology, especially, it depends where they come from, but right, some of your more advanced clients who have like a pretty high bar for user experience. So you can't be clunky when you get in the door or else, right, they won't come back.
It does, Jamie. I've said, a few times, while I haven't spent a lot of time in the co-working space, right, I definitely think that there's a lot of things that corporate real estate can learn from the industry you guys are in. And the first thing is, as you just said, it's a product, right? You guys have to have a product that works because otherwise people aren't going to buy it. And we're talking to so many more corporates now, especially after COVID. It's like, this isn't your job in facilities management or corporate real estate isn't to give someone a spot to sit because they work for the company, right? This is a product. This is the brand. This is who you are. And hospitality is part of the job now. Within Accenture, we made some changes around during the pandemic around how we were providing services in our offices, post-pandemic with this really heavy hospitality spin, and it paid us huge dividends. When we opened our New York City office, and we've now started to roll that through to more and more locations, but making it the role of the facilities, the workplace people about. You're there to service the people. You're there to help the people that are there to help the organization, and getting people to change their mindset from my job is to make sure the building is good to my job is to make sure the people are good and that the people can do their job is a mind shift. But it's something that you guys in the flex space, like that's what you were doing, right? That's the product, as you said. No one's going to pay you for something that is a terrible experience, and so you've always had that. That kind of bent on the product that you're offering. And there's a lot, I think, that the corporate side can learn from that.
Although I'll sneak in one more thing, Gio. Accenture has always been kind of an early adopter, like culturally, of kind of a flexible workspace, right? I remember they went to hoteling really early. and I'm trying to remember the name of the guy who used to, maybe he still does, runs their workspace, but very forward thinking about, how people use space and sort of matching that up and reducing. And I think they were an early user of Liquid Space to allow folks to book kind of on-demand needs. Can you just talk about sort of your internal culture around, how people work?
Yeah, sure. So you're right. You've done your research, Jamie. We were a very, very early adopter of flexible working or hoteling or desk sharing or whatever name you want to give to it today. I actually wasn't even at the firm when it came in, but I believe it was somewhere around 20 years ago that we moved to it. But, one of the interesting things for us when you look at how space is being used pre the pandemic and post the pandemic is that we've actually gone through almost the opposite that most of our clients have. So before the pandemic, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday were our low occupancy days. Like the offices didn't have a lot of people in them. Yeah, there was a lot of meetings going on, but Friday was the day that everybody came to the office. And Friday, the office was jammed. There was no space. If you wanted to have meetings sometimes, you may have to go and get flex space outside, but Friday was the busy day.
Because you're not with clients on Fridays, right?
We're not with clients on Fridays, right? Now flip that around, and we've got, very similar to most other organizations. Now, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are our busy days. More of our people come into the office. More of our teams come into the office because they're working at our office, not at our clients' offices. And actually, more of our clients are coming to our office as well. And so we're meeting with them in our spaces versus meeting with them in their spaces. And so, our consumption has changed around. The way that we use meeting room spaces has changed around. We do a lot more events, or what you might consider events, but like hospitality type services where it's groups of our people and our clients coming into our spaces to work together. And the spaces that we're building now have more and more services and facilities that our clients won't have, like broadcast centers and makers labs and things like that, so that we can actually bring them in and co-create and develop things together with them. So we've seen the total opposite of that, but again, of what most organizations have been doing. But as you said, we have been an organization that doesn't have assigned desks or assigned offices for many, many years. So the change for us wasn't all that big. What has been the big change is the way that we consume that flexible space has really been turned on its head.
This is where Jamie and I joust. I'm like, do you want to keep going? Or so tell us about your podcast. You just recently, Jamie's got 300 something episodes. Hard to believe we're already in the 60s for this one. So love to hear kind of what you've got cooking and who you're kind of trying to target and topics and all that fun stuff.
Awesome. Well, yeah, thanks for teeing that up for me, Gio. Yeah. So I have just launched a podcast. It's called Creating Smarter Spaces. And it is, available on your favorite platform that you want to go and grab it from. The shameless plug in there. But it's really aimed at corporate real estate, facilities management, and workplace technology professionals to really talk about how we bring those three things together to create smart spaces. Very separate to smart buildings, but really, really focused on, the tenant side of how do we make spaces that people love to come and work in, and how do we bring, the three things we just talked about, people, place, and technology together to make smarter spaces.
What episode are you on?
I'm almost up to Jamie. I just launched episode 3 the other day, the start of August. So now I'm hot on her heels there.
You have to launch with 3, right? I was like, oh, he's following the system. He's got his 3 out the door.
3. You got 300. I've got 3. As far as I'm concerned, you've got 0 more than I have. So
consistency is key. Gio is like really militant about our consistency, which is great. And I am too with my podcast. I was not at the beginning though, but that's how you get the, I don't even know what I'd be at if I was. So I'm curious, what do you do? So you work for a pretty big company. So for you, like, what's the why behind what?
You froze on us.
I did?
Yeah. We didn't get the question. So you work and then you froze. So continue.
Oh, weird. I didn't freeze. But okay, so you work for a big company. I'm used to seeing entrepreneurs do podcasts, like, brand building, marketing. What's the why for your podcast? How does it kind of fit into your professional life?
Yeah, so that's a really great question, and you're right. I had some trepidation over starting it, but one of the things for me, I've published a lot of written material for many years. I was trained very young in my consulting years that writing was important, and so I've been an avid writer both internally within Accenture and externally. But I do have a slight bit of dyslexia, and so writing for me is a longer process than I would like it to be. I get a lot of pleasure out of it, but it was definitely more time consuming than I wanted, and I would get a lot of things caught in my head. And so I thought that I've always been a speaker at events, and after getting invited to do a couple of guest spots on podcasts, I was like, this is a medium that works for me. I can sit down, I can have the ideas flow out of my mind, and I can document it in a different way. And so I'm just trying to use it as a platform to help me get the ideas that are in my head, the questions that I get asked quite regularly, and things that I might have written a blog about out in a new media format. So
do you have to put a disclaimer on the podcast, like these reviews are not representative of Accenture or whatever?
There is a disclaimer at the end of the podcast. Yes. So
okay. So when Gio was at AY, they would make us, sometimes PR would get involved, and I'd be like, oh my God, Gio, you're slowing us down.
Once. It only happened once.
Did it happen once?
But yeah.
One time is too many for somebody to want some edits. I'm kidding.
I agree. So, Michael, what's your favorite type of account to work on? Like when an enterprise group comes in, and what are they trying to achieve, or what is your preferred consulting assignment?
Oh, so I mean, I've been, my background is in technology. I'm a technologist from, by trade, but my favorite type of problem for a client to come in with, especially where we are right now, is how do we make the workplace somewhere that people want to come, right? Something that is very non-defined and very aspirational, and really love being able to work through them, to work through the process with them, to understand what that means and how we're going to make it happen, right? What's the experience that we want people to have? What's the brand of the organization? What's the feeling we're looking for? Why are people coming in? What are they doing? What do we need to be able to have there to support them? And at the end of the day, the technology falls out the bottom. But taking them through that entire process is sort of where the fun bit is for me. I mean, we can have people come to us all day and say, hey, this is broken, or we need this fixed, or we need this changed. And, we can do all that stuff, obviously. But for me, I really love working with organizations and people that really want to ask those fundamental questions of, like, why do we even have offices anymore, right? I'm not saying we shouldn't have them, but let's start off with that question. Let's re-justify to ourselves why these things exist. And then as we understand what they are and why they are and what we want to use them for, let's chart out a path to how we build that into an actual product and an actual space that people want to go to. So I love the creative piece of it, and I love being able to ask the tough questions and get to an end product that people just really love to spend their time in.
Wait, I have a follow-up. I like that question. Do you ever sit in a room where people get like kind of feisty about this topic, like have disagreements?
Oh yeah, of course, of course. And I'm always happy to be the person in the room that asks the stupid questions. And I kind of give myself some, especially if I'm in a room with real estate and HR, is like, I'm just the tech guy that's come in here, and I don't know anything about anything, so I'm going to ask the stupid questions, right? But it does. There's definitely a lot of passion for different things. A lot of these parts of the industry have been around for a long time, and people have been doing things the same way forever. But I think this is the opportunity and the time for us to question those things and say, hey, maybe we are doing the right thing, but let's just ask ourselves again, are we sure that we're doing the right thing? And are we sure this is right for where we are and where our people are and where we want to go? And let's have an open discussion about what the right thing is for the people. Because at the end of the day, the workplace only exists for the people in the organization.
So, who would you say knows you best in the world?
Oh, that's a really good question.
Ooh, that's juicy. I like it.
Who knows me best in the world? Probably one of my friends who I've had now for 25 years, who started off as a client of mine in 1999, and ended up being the best man at my wedding, and also now lives in the US. So we've traveled the world together. We've ended up in the other side of the planet together. We've been through quite a bit of stuff together. And it just so happens that we work back at the same company again now,
Aw.
25 years later. So yeah.
And what's his? You don't have to say his last name.
Sorry?
What's his first name? You don't have to say his last name.
Oh, his first name is Anthony.
So if Anthony were sitting right here and we asked him his 3 favorite things about you, what would he say?
Oh, I don't know. You're putting me on the spot here, Gio. Oh, I don't know. That's a really good question. Probably that we always had each other's back. When we were younger, we did some crazy stuff, and we have definitely had some adventures together and still continue to this day.
Comment about your loyalty, right? So that's a good one. All right, 2 more.
Oh,
You're
good. You want
persistent.
more?
Wow.
Persistent. All right. So loyalty. I think they're all along the same things. Like, we've always been super supportive of each other about the things that we've done and directions that we've gone in, personally and professionally. I think has always been, a strength of our friendship. And I think it always helps that you've got interests in the same area as well. So, but
Yep.
Fun fact, having said that, we've known each other now for 25 years. We've never, ever once lived in the same city. So,
Wow. So what I heard was loyalty, encouragement, and passionate, right? So your friendship had the loyalty, and you were encouraging is along the way for each other, and then your passion for what y'all get to do. And
I think that's just called being Australian where we're from. It's just part of our culture, right? It's just who we are as people, and so I think that a lot of that shines through.
yeah, and it makes you a great leader, right? A leader of your team. It makes you a great leader in the industry. And I mean, I guess full circle, that's how we ended up on this, is just how consistent you are with the overall content that you put out. Not always necessarily your content, but you share a lot of stuff. And so really appreciate you continuing to do that, because the more of us that are out there putting out content to help people through this crazy time, the better off we all are, right? Because you handle a totally different side of the business than I do, or Jamie. And that's the fun part, is that's what I love about being able to collaborate with people like you, that I don't understand necessarily what you're talking about, but it helps me see a different side.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, all of this is all about, I really believe that as an industry, and really as a society, if I was to be so bold, right? We're at a position right now. It's a once in a lifetime, like once in a generation opportunity for us to define what work looks like in the future, right? We're not going to have the opportunity for the organizations en masse to be as motivated, for people to be as open as change to fundamental things that they've been doing for years as they are right now. And so whatever we come out of this time period that we're in right now as the standard moving forward, that's going to be there for another 50, 60, heck, could be there for another 100 years before there's another forcing function to go where people and business all together at the same time Granted, at the moment, they're doing two different things, but they're both sitting there saying, this is a time for change. We just haven't yet got to the agreement about what that is. So I'm just excited about where we are as a society, and hoping that we can move where we all land forward at the end of the day for people. It's for us, it's for our children, it's for the people that come after us, around the places that we work, the places that we build, sustainability, and the new norms that will come from the period that we're in. So that's why I do it.
There's no better way to end than that mic drop, right? I mean, how do we end with
perfect? Thanks for doing this, Michael. We really appreciate it. And I'm going to subscribe to your podcast. We'll stick it in the show notes for anybody else who wants to check it out.
Thank you so much, guys. Appreciate it. It's been fun. And thanks for, you threw me some curveballs there, Gio, but I was ready. I knew they were going to come at some point. I don't know if I knew what they were going to be, but it's all good. I've had fun, guys. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Thank you.